Hello everybody, welcome back. This is JudiciousFire. I'm on the iOS server. I had a couple of requests on the channel to do a video on reflect versus deflect damage. Castle Clash seems to mix up the two in their descriptions of talents, heroes, and enchantments. They tend to use the two interchangeably, but the effect in battle and in the gameplay, they seem to be very, very different. So, what has been discussed through the Castle Clash community is a definition of what reflect and deflect is and which talents, enchantments, and heroes it's actually functioning on. Let's take a look at Atlanta Core to illustrate something. There is a tremendous difference in this game between deflect with a D and reflect with an R. A deflect is going to take whatever percentage that you're going to be deflecting, take that damage, and cancel it. Your hero will not take that damage. Instead, that intended damage will be sent back at the attacker. With reflect with an R, your hero will still take that damage. Only a matching portion will be sent back at the attacker. So deflect you can look at as not only sending the a portion of the attack back at the attacker, but also uh, very much like a stone skin, it will stop that percentage of damage from even occurring. Unfortunately, reflect isn't nearly as good, and you'll still take full damage, but some of it will be sent back at the attacker. Let's take a look at the talent compendium. Okay, as the talent compendium shows us, there are only two talents available that have a deflection capability. That is Blade Shell and Flame Guard. Blade Shell is going to give you a 40% chance to deflect 100% of the damage taken. That's going to mean that your hero won't take any damage at all. The damage will be negated, and whatever damage is supposed to have happened to your hero is going to be sent back at the attacker. Now, there's only a 40% chance of that occurring, so the other 60% of the time you can basically feel as though your hero has no talent at all. Flame Guard. The HP increase by 40% is great, with the deflection of 50% of damage. That's a very nice talent, especially when you have it on an entire team, because you're able to really push back the damage at the enemy. So you are going to be, if you're hit for 100, you're going to be negating 50% of that, taking only 50. And 50 damage is also going to be sent back at the opponent. Blade Shell is only a chance to work. Flame Guard is working all the time. Neither of these stack or add to a hero's skill. So any hero like Asura, Commodora, Michael, Destroyer, Atlanta Core, any of them with these two talents, it will not add to their deflect ability in their skill. Another great thing about Flame Guard is this: it will lower the damage cap on damage capped heroes. So Dovekeeper, Zephyrica, Levianica, it's going to cut their damage cap in half. That, with Victory Lunge, that does the same. You can effectively lower the damage cap on heroes by 65%. It is an option to explore. We're here in the enchantment compendium. The only enchantment that we are featuring here in Castle Clash that has anything to do with reflect or deflect is going to be Victory Lunge. It states reflect, but instead it should be stating deflect. Victory Lunge will decrease the damage that you're taking by 15%, and that 15% will be sent back at the attacker. So it is a deflect, not a reflect. Victory Lunge has the interesting ability as well of lowering damage caps on damage capped heroes. A Victory Lunge on Zephyrica will take you down 15% of total damage cap. Same with Dovekeeper, and same with Levanica. So you can reduce their damage cap by 15% with a Victory Lunge, but it is definitely deflect, negating damage and sending that portion back at the attacker. Another really neat thing about Victory Lunge is it will stack or add to Flame Guard. So Flame Guard 9, a Victory Lunge 5, you're looking at 65% deflect of damage. Okay, we move on to our only pet in the pet compendium that offers a form of deflect or reflect damage. In this case, it is deflect damage that Drogo provides. When the hero to which Drogo is outfitted, when that hero is attacked, a shield will be cast, typically on that hero or over a longer battle, any hero nearby. During that time that the shield is operating, you're going to get 65% damage deflection. And because that is of a higher value than a 9 Flame Guard coming in at only 50%, Drogo will override the Flame Guard during that time, during the 4 seconds time. Of course, it's only operating on one hero. And during the 3 seconds of cooldown, where the skill from the pet is not active, the Flame Guard would go back to providing the 50% deflect again. So whenever I mention Flame Guard and its abilities working in combat or adding to deflect or creating a deflect, I am referring to its deflection capability. At all times, you're going to be getting the health increase of 40% that Flame Guard 9 gives you. And that is a benefit to any hero in any situation. There is one effect that deflect and reflect heroes have in the game, and that is through the use of totems. If you put Atlanticor in there, he is going to give a nearby hero, nearby the totem, a full deflection of all damage for 6 seconds. You go into a hero such as, it's really all of the reflectors and deflectors that we talked about. Destroyer is going to be giving a deflect of 45% to a hero nearby. We get into somebody like it's damage. Asura provides damage and energy reduction. What about Commodora? She provides the, and I believe it's going to be deflect, a deflect of 35% for 4 seconds. So each of the deflectors and reflectors, for the most part, a few exceptions, provide a similar skill quality when placed in totem. Okay, our friend Atlanticor. The classic deflector in the game, he is the only hero in Castle Clash that is sending back 100% of the damage that he was intended to take. Because it is deflect, he takes none of it. So when his shield is up, he's taking 0 damage, and the enemy is taking all of it in return. A talent like Blade Shell, a talent like Flame Guard, both of them are capable of operating on Atlanticor, but neither one will be stacking or adding to his skill. So while his skill is operating 7.5 seconds, and let's say he's got a 2-second cooldown, for 7.5 seconds, Flame Guard won't be working. Blade Shell won't be working. It will be instead overridden by his 100% deflect skill ability. All talents in this game are overridden by a hero's innate skill ability. So any hero that has a higher percentage of deflect or reflect than the talent provides will be using its skill rather than the talent. It will always go to skill first. So people don't put Blade Shell or Flame Guard on Atlantic Core because it would only be operating for a brief second when his shield is down. And in that time, I don't think it would stop him from getting killed anyway. He's an older hero. Everybody's got to have a Revitalize on there somewhere to get his shield up as quickly as possible. Let's jump to another hero. Okay, here's Destroyer. Destroyer is going to deflect damage, negate it, then send that intended damage back at the enemy. His skill activation is always going to override the talent. So, for 5 seconds, he will deflect 70% of damage with a cooldown of 5 seconds. If you were to place a Flame Guard, it would not stack or add to this deflect. Blade Shell will not stack or add to the deflect. Okay, we've got Warlock here. Warlock is going to provide a deflect to 4 out of 6 members of your team. He does so for 5 out of 6 seconds. It's a 56% damage deflect. Flame Guard is only going to be deflecting 50% of the damage taken. Thereby, the skill and, of course, a higher deflection rating of 56% is going to override any Flame Guard that anybody's running on your team. Now, when they are not under the effect of Warlock's skill, the Flame Guard will still be functioning just fine. Here's Bogeyman. Bogey is going to have, it's not a reflect or a deflect. He's nearly immune to reflect and deflected damage. He has a cap, a damage cap, on any reflex or deflects that he takes in the game. He can't take more than 5,000 per hit. Now, that does not mean 5,000 cumulative. That means that for every reflection or deflection that he gets hit with, the max that it can be is 5,000. But one per, each one's going to be 5,000. So he has that nice built-in Wicked Armor. And Wicked Armor, the talent or insignia, does the same thing. It's going to limit, reduce the reflected and deflected damage in this game. And I believe it's 7,000 at Wicked Armor level 9. So Bogey has a built-in skill quality that's even better than a level 9 talent. Okay, now we have Asura. Asura is going to be providing a 50% deflect, negating the damage and sending it back at the attacker. And this happens throughout the entire battle. That's always operating as part of his skill. So, if we put a Flame Guard on him, it would not be adding or stacking to his skill. It would not be functioning at all, because Flame Guard's also at 50%, and because the skill of deflection on Asura is running 100% of the time, it would override the Flame Guard. Always skill overrides the talent. When it comes to Blade Shell, Asura will be able to use Blade Shell. He will be constantly deflecting 50% of incoming damage. But with the Blade Shell, we'll have the opportunity, that 40% chance opportunity to send 100% of the damage back at the attacker. So Flame Guard's a no-no. Blade Shell is a possibility. Okay, here's Michael. He deflects 75% of the damage that he takes. This happens for 6 seconds. There's a cooldown of 8 seconds. So for 2 seconds, it's not functioning. If you run a Flame Guard on Michael, it will not add or stack to his skill. Flame Guard never does. But what will happen is this. In the 2 seconds of cooldown time, when Michael's skill is not activating, the Flame Guard will be activating. So you will have 75% damage deflection for 6 seconds, and then for 2 seconds, you will have 50% damage deflection if your Flame Guard is at level 9. In the case of Blade Shell, Michael is just like Asura. his deflect at 75% will be running 6 out of 8 seconds. The entire time, though, with a Blade Shell 9, he will have that 40% chance at all times to deflect 100% of the damage that he takes. Okay, next we have Commodora. She is, it states that she reflects, but she really does negate the damage that's coming in. That incoming damage, it is deflected back at the enemy, even though it states reflect. If she were to be reflecting, that means she'd be taking the damage. I have seen Commodora in action, and the amount of damage that she takes, there is a component of deflection in there. Again, it's just misstated. This deflect is 65% of all damage for 4 seconds out of every 4 seconds. So it's always going to be functioning. And it's always going to be functioning at a lot higher percentage than any kind of Flame Guard currently gives us, even at level 9. So Flame Guard would be a complete waste on her. It would be canceled out by her skill ability. And a Blade Shell, you would still have her 65% deflect. That would still be going. But during that time, you would also have that 40% chance to send back 100% at the attacker. Each of our heroes can be given the ability to reflect or deflect. Each of our heroes can be given the ability to deflect damage with the use of a victory lunge. It is not a tremendous amount, only 15%, but every little bit helps in that particular case, especially when taking on somebody like a Cosmo. He only needs to hit a hero with a victory lunge, and in some cases that deflection can be enough to kill him. When it comes to Flame Guard in this game, Flame Guard is going to be a talent that can be silenced by something like an Ares or a Ripper, and it can be completely stripped off of the hero. That is another reason why when people run a Flame Guard, they run it on a whole team. It's typically not just one or two heroes, but it's an entire team of Flame Guard. So when it comes to, let's jump back to the talents real quick. Blade Shell has historically been a pretty unpopular talent in Castle Clash. I think the reason is, I think it's actually 2 or 3 different reasons. One, you only have a 40% chance. Now, Blade Shell was one of the first talents introduced in the game, and then at that point it was only level 5. You had a 10% chance. But as the levels have gone up, it's gotten a little bit more attractive as a talent, but we're still not at that point. Second reason being, if you are lucky enough to get the 40% and actually deflect 100% of the damage taken, we have so many damage capped heroes in this game now. Any kind of, if Levanica hits you for 400,000, when it deflects back at him, he'll only be taking 10,000. Okay, his damage cap. Dove will be taking 18,000. Zeph will be taking 36,000, which makes reflect and deflect against those kinds of heroes not pointless. It can help to accumulate damage against them, but it typically gets your hero killed in the meantime. Okay, you really have to sit there deflecting for a tremendous period of time to knock down their health pool. Again, this is why people use a entire team of 6 running a Flame Guard. So Blade Shell's never been super popular. It's probably one I'd stay away from. You look at it this way. For 60% of the operational time, you have no talent. You're not going to make it. Flame Guard, okay. Big health increase. Really nice with the whole group team. You get a nice healer in there, and you can deflect a lot of damage. And the Flame Guard does a wonderful job of lowering damage caps, just like Victory Lunge. And in fact, it will lower the damage cap on Zephyrica by 50%, from 36,000 down to 18,000. It'll cut Lava's damage cap in half. It'll cut Dove's damage cap in half. So it has a lot of utility, Flame Guard. Um, but it also has, of course, some downsides. It's not going to make you stronger. Uh, the health increase is not anywhere near some of the other health-related talents. Um, but the deflection is a form of damage reduction. 50% of the damage taken away. So that is very, very helpful. It can really help to stack up hits against damage capped heroes. You have to look at it this way. When they're hitting you, part of it's coming back at them. So in many ways, it's kind of like you're doubling the number of hits that they are receiving, thereby knocking down their health pool pretty quickly. When it comes to reflect and deflect damage in this game, it's something that for the most part I've given up on. I've never gotten it to work well. Effectively, heroes end up getting killed. You can consider the amount of damage that a hero has to be taking in order for half of it to go back at the attacker and actually kill that attacker. Your hero would die twice in that time period. There are heroes that their reflect and deflect is hampered and reduced when we use damage reducing talents. If you are reducing your damage by 50%, then you have less damage to deflect back at the attacker. I think this is fine. When it comes to Destroyer, Commodora, Mike, Asura, I've given them all some sort of survival talent that negates damage completely erases their deflection. I've given them all some kind of damage reduction that lowers their deflection capability. And the reason is those components of their skill don't work well. Michael serves one purpose in this game, and that is to be a buffer, to give everybody a big attack and attack speed boost. Don't worry about deflection. Okay, that's not what he's there for. If you are newer to the game and you haven't gotten through level 25 plus breakthrough on your Michael, then certainly you have more options. But by level 30 breakthrough on Michael, he's killed immediately with one shot from any of the big damage cap dragons. Unless you're running him with damage reduction, damage negation, healing, so he can give that attack an attack speed boost. Asura, yeah, he's deflecting 50% of all incoming damage, but it's nothing. It does nothing against the top heroes of today. So I'm running him with a Sacred Light and a Survival. Yeah, it reduces his deflect, but at least he's alive. Asura is a hero that's fairly decent, but he can't do anything against the big premier heroes of today. And certainly with the deflection, it's going to do even less. So very, very difficult to rely on something like that. So I've given it up on everybody in this game. Look at my Commodora. My Commodora's got negation of damage, so no deflection at all, and a reduction in damage, thereby a reduction in deflection. And she went from dying immediately, because I was trying to save the deflect. Now she survives an entire battle. She'll 100% a base just by herself. So I would not put too much stock in the reflect and deflect capabilities of our heroes' skills. I would not make that a component of your attack strategy or your defensive strategy. One hit from a big dragon, they're dead. I would consider putting together a team of 6 Flame Guard heroes. And you would not want to make them any of the heroes that currently have a deflect in their abilities. I think if anybody, Michael would be a possibility, because for 2 seconds Flame Guard would be operating, but he's going to end up getting killed. You got to give him damage reduction, some kind of survival, ability to heal, to negate damage outright, not just cut it in half. Okay, so for those 2 seconds when Flame Guard's operating, he'll have a Dovekeeper critical hit dropped on his head and be killed. So, bad news as far as Reflect and Deflect goes in this game. I think it used to be a little bit more effective when our heroes had 200,000 health, but now they've got 1.3 million. So very, very difficult to be effective with Reflect and Deflect in this game. I hope this has been helpful. There are a lot of nuances to Castle Clash, and IGG Castle Clash gives us very, very, very little information. And that little information tends to be sometimes miswritten, mistranslated, and misunderstood by the time it gets to us. Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoy your clashing, and I will see you on the next video. All right, bye-bye.